awesome people.
Okay, all the awesome people are here. Welcome to this version of the Coaching Club. We're really glad to have you here with us, whether you're live or watching the recording. And hopefully this will be, again, a really great experience for you. I've been put up against competing with Sleepless in Seattle tonight, so I've got to really up my game and bring it. So here we go. We're going to have fun tonight, I hope. I usually do slides, so I'm going to pull up my slides and we'll go through that and have some discussion and have some fun. So here we go. Curtis will admit anybody else who comes on board. So can y'all see that? So the topic this month is called Finding Your Why, or Finding My Why. And I listened to last week's recording. It was really interesting, a lot of good insights and different takes on this. And it's something that I've been really interested in and actually working on this topic for over a decade now, and actually longer than that. It's something that's really fascinating to me, and I think it's crucial for, it's kind of one of the foundational pieces, I think, for anybody to find true direction and founding and alignment in their lives. Being really clear on your why is super important. But I'm going to take it a little bit, in a slightly different direction tonight, and see if we can dig down to another level and have some additional insights. So I'm Mark Dayton, by the way. I'm I call myself the Who Coach here in the Coaching Club, and we'll take you on this journey tonight on finding our why, maybe through a little bit different angle than you were thinking of previously. So, like I said, I've been on this quest for a why for a long time. And it's one that can be very confusing. It can be a head scratcher. It can be frustrating, and it can be very exhilarating at the same time. But for me, it started back with the first place I really got introduced to this was through Simon Sinek. I think I juxtaposed his spelling of his name there. But he presented this, what he called the golden circle, in explaining the why in this way with an example of a computer company, a tech company. And he said, if you look at most tech companies, they start with what they do. So they start with, we sell computers. Then they move to how they do that. We have ultra fast processors, tons of memory, HD screens, all the technical stuff. And then they say, so do you want to buy one of my computers? Because it's so fast and it's so cool. And they don't really ever get beyond that. And his point was that if you look at a company like Apple, Apple starts with why. And their why is, in everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo and thinking differently. So if you've seen any of the Apple ads for many, many, many years, it was think different and computers for the rest of us and those kinds of things. And so they see themselves as challenging the status quo and thinking differently. That's why their computers are beautifully designed, simple to use, user-friendly, all of those characteristics that have become iconic with Apple Computer. And to their credit, Apple really did, make when they came out with this, it really made a huge difference in their trajectory. So I thought about this a lot. I thought, well, let me get back here. I thought, okay, so that I get the concept. I understand where he's going with this. Start with your why. Don't start with your what and your how. And so how does that apply to me? And so I went on this quest of what is my personal why? And how do I get to that why? And how do I really understand it? And I actually bought his book. I did all the exercises, and I honestly really struggled with it for quite a while, and thought, well, maybe it's just me. But then I started talking to other people, and they were like, well, yeah, I don't really get it either, and I'm not sure what a why is, and how that all works together. So I found out I wasn't alone, that I wasn't the only one who was really kind of scratching my head on this and trying to figure it out. So I struggled with that for some time, and then I started thinking back through this whole process. And while I love the Apple computer why, to me it still begged the question of, well, if that's their why, then why is that their why? And as I went through this whole exercise, that became one of the key questions to ask is, okay, if I say this is my why, then why is that my why? And why can't it be something else? So is Apple Computer the only one who believes in challenging the status quo, who thinks differently, who thinks outside the box? So why is that their why? And for me, it was still kind of a head scratcher as to, so why is that such a compelling why? And then the breakthrough came. So I came across Apple's 1977. This is an iconic ad that came out in 1977. This was when Apple was actually on the ropes. They were struggling, they were losing, they were just bleeding money and couldn't figure out their way forward. And Steve Jobs had gone off to another company, and they brought him back to try to turn the company around. And this was one of the first things he did when he came back, was create this ad that just went everywhere. And this is the copy from the ad. And the things that jumped out at me, I've highlighted there. So this was, here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. Some see them as crazy ones. We see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And it just hit me. I thought, oh my goodness, that is why they're why. They think outside the box. They think differently because they see themselves as the crazy ones. They are the ones that are crazy enough to think that they can change the world. And guess what? Here we are a couple of decades later, and they did change the world. They are the most valuable company on the planet. I think it's like $3 trillion of net worth. And they have changed our lives with smartphones and online music and everything else. They were crazy enough to think that they could do it, and they did. So things really clicked for me. And this is what I'm proposing as to getting to your why. Actually, there's one step before your why. And I believe at the core, it's your who. So Apple, in this case, they were the crazy ones. They were the ones who were crazy enough to think that they could change the world. That's who they are. They see themselves as, call me whatever you want. But we are the crazy ones. We're going to go out there. We're on the cutting edge. We're on the leading edge because we are crazy enough to think we can change the world. And because of that, we think outside the box. We break the rules. We think differently. And because we think differently, that is how we create such elegant, such intuitive, simple to use products that people love. And what do we make? We make computers and phones and those kinds of things. So for me, this suddenly clicked. And it felt right because I could see that there was something before why. It was actually getting to the core of who we are before we try to figure out why. And so, if applying that to our personal selves, if we start with who, then the why, how, and what just flow naturally right out of that. It's actually pretty amazing how it flows out. As I talk to people about this over the years, a lot of people said, "Oh, so what you're really talking about is what's my purpose on this planet, and who was I born to be?" And I like that a lot. And so that's kind of how I look at it. That my who is really getting down to getting very clear and being able to articulate who were you born to be, and what were you born to do on this planet. If you can get really clear on that, then the why and the how and the what flow naturally right out of that. So that's how I got to what's my who. Who were you born to be on this planet, and what were you born to do? And I wrote a book about it a couple of years ago that's out on Amazon, and it really goes through this whole process of of what I call rediscovering your who and what you were born to be, and who you were born to be and what you were born to do on this planet. So let's take an example. This might make it a little simpler. So let's say we're talking to a doctor, and this is a very competent lady. She's a physician, but she's really trying to figure out. She's at a point where in her practice she wants to decide what direction she's going to go. And so, if I were to ask her, so who are you? What's your who? She might say, well, I'm a doctor. Well, being a doctor isn't your who, that's your what. That's actually way out on the very edge. That's what you are, but that's not who you are. So if I were to do some work with her and really dive deep and try to get to that, so what's your who are you, we might come to something like this, where she would say, well, at my core, I am a gifted and compassionate healer. That's who I am. And when you get to the who, it feels right. It resonates. You don't have to defend it. You don't have to explain it. It just is. And so let's say that she got to that and said, I am a gifted and compassionate healer. That sounds like a really powerful who to me. From there, she could look at a why, and I've put together this idea for a why. So she could say, well, because I'm a gifted and compassionate healer, I combine my gift of healing with my gift of compassion to bring about, I think, astounding cures for people who are ill. That's my why. That's what I'm about as I go out into the world. Well, then from there are several different paths that she could take. She could go into private practice and just be a compassionate, gifted, compassionate healer in private practice. She could join a specialist group that really focuses on compassionate care. She could go to a third world country and do that kind of work. And there are many, many other options of how she could do that, but they would still be in alignment with her core who and her why. So let's say that she decides to form a group of doctors, become a partner in a group of doctors who are really focused on compassionate care. And that's the direction that she decides to go as a specialist in that group. So now she has a who, she has a why and a how and a what, but they're all in alignment with that core who. of what she's really about at her core. There are other hows and other whats that she could have picked. Let's just say, for example, she could have gone into become a research physician. There are thousands of doctors who get their MD and then go into research. They don't really do clinical work, but they prefer to do the research side of it. That's something she could have done, and maybe she could have gotten a really great position like a medical director for a pharma company. But if you look at how that aligns, it doesn't really align with her core who, because it doesn't give her the opportunity to express her gift for compassionate care and healing with a why and a how that line up with that. So that gives you an idea of what of how the who keeps us aligned to what's going to give us the greatest satisfaction and joy and direction in our lives. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts at this point? Anything strike you as I've been going through this idea?
Yeah, I've been listening to The Dream Giver this week,
Okay.
which goes along really well with this. And I also have a client I'm working with right now that is wanting to learn more about why he's on the planet. And so I'm pretty excited. I'm gonna on our next coaching call, I'm gonna assign him to watch this video and read the dream and listen to The Dream Giver.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
this as you all know, this is a really big deal to me, and it's something that I've experienced and something that I've taught, and it's not an easy thing to teach.
It is very difficult. That is very difficult.
Yeah,
I oh, go ahead, Janae.
that was going to be my comment is as you talked through it, I got a little nervous about how I was going to do this for myself. And so I thought, gosh, can I have that worksheet that you have? And maybe I need to have some coaching.
It really helps to have some outside input on it and to walk through a process. I'm going to actually walk us through an exercise here in just a little bit that I think will be helpful. But also in the book, if you in the exercise part, there's actually
Laura, I'm
a,
going to give you some.
a way that you can walk through it and fill it out, and a worksheet kind of a thing that I think will be really helpful as well. I was just going to mention that I worked on the corporate side of the world for much of my career, and over the years there was this big craze many years ago about, oh, you have to have a vision statement and a mission statement and a purpose statement and values and all of that kind of thing. And I can't tell you how many companies I've worked with and worked for where it's just like swimming around in confusion. And well, so is that a vision statement? No, that's a mission statement. Well, so then what is a mission statement? And well, no, these are our. I mean, it's just it can be very, very confusing. But when you can look at it in a structured way like this, you really start to see where things live and what becomes your core purpose versus what it is you do and why you're doing it. Other thoughts? Okay, let's move on. So in getting to your who, these are the things that I've found. I'm going to start with what I believe your who is not, because there's so much confusion and how do you really get to it. So this is an approach and a list of what I believe a who is not. So as we mentioned before, it's not a title. So if you say, well, who are you? And you say, I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, or whatever, that's really your what. That's not your who. a title. As I have worked through this, we are getting down to our core when we're doing this exercise, and we're way down deep, and we're into the deep subconscious emotional parts of our souls. And when you get down to that level, it's pretty simple. I mean, our subconscious thinks in very simple terms, very simple concepts. A lot of times it's pictures or images or video kinds of things, and it's not long statements and long paragraphs about things. It's pretty short and clear, and actually I found that it's sometimes just a couple of words. So I put that out there as something to think about. And again, going back to my corporate example, and I mean, people would write for their purpose statement or their vision statement, it would be this big, long paragraph about we do, and it just gets so confusing that it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. So if you're writing a long paragraph, you probably haven't gone deep enough to get down to what's really in the core of your heart. A list of characteristics is usually not, again, having gone deep enough. So if it's I want to be magnanimous, and I want to be charitable, and all of these things, those are more characteristics. They aren't really getting down to who you are at your core. The language is really important, and like I said, we're talking subconscious language, right? So the words do mean a lot. And when I hear people say, well, I can, or I ought to be, or I will be, or I want to be, I aspire to be, that tells me they haven't gotten to their who yet, because when you get to your who, it's I am. This is who I am. It's your being. And so if you are using words like I can, or I aspire to be, or I want to be, you haven't gone deep enough to get to who you really are. And a great starting point is to start with I am, and then let your subconscious fill in the blank. I want to be really careful with this one, but I bring it up because your who is super, super personal, and it's unique in all the universe. I genuinely believe that. I believe that every one of us is unique in all the universe. And so a who statement or a who recognition is very personal, and it's very specific to who each of us is. And so with all the respect in the world for this next point, as a starting point, I think it's very, very helpful, and I would say critical, that you have a clear idea of your place in the universe at a high level. And that's how I would describe this. So people say, if I'm a child of God, I am a child of the universe, I am a conscious being, whatever your meta conception of your place in the universe is, that is super important. And I totally respect that, and encourage people to go there. My comment is that I would ask you to consider that as a starting place, and from there then you dig down to, okay, so what does that mean for you personally? And my example is, it's kind of like you made the team. Okay, so if you're trying out for the football team, or you're trying out for a band, or the orchestra, or the dance team, or whatever it is, you practice, you go to the tryouts, you make the cut, and the coach goes, congratulations, you made the team, that's fantastic. And then you say, okay, now what? Because you're on the team, but you have a specific role to play on that team to make the team successful and for you to be successful. So you're going to play running back, or you're going to play the flute, or whatever it is you're going to do on that team. And even though there are other people that are doing the same position, the same thing that you are, they're not you, and they won't do it the same way you do it, and they won't do it with the same kind of capability that you have for it. So that's where I'm inviting you to maybe drill down a little deeper and say, okay, within that meta position that I have in the universe, what is my unique place and my unique role that that is really my is who I am, is who I was born to be and why I'm on the planet. It's not necessarily permanent and unchangeable, but the caveat on that is that I see it as it will refine and sharpen over time if you really get clear on it, and you'll go to deeper levels, which is what I found. I thought I had really articulated my who, and then it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and more refined. It doesn't. I don't find myself moving to different directions, going, oh well, I thought that's what it was, but now it's over. Consider that it's not a one and done kind of thing, and just be open to continued progress on that. Message just popped up on my screen, but it's I'll keep going.
Hey, can we tell you what we think our who is, and can you say
Yes.
your name?
Yeah. What, do you want to do that now, or I was gonna do that in just a few minutes, but
Either way, I can wait.
yeah, why don't we do that? Let me just go through this real quickly, and then we'll come back to that. Is that all right?
Totally.
Okay. The other thing is that I invite you to consider that this isn't something that you think or that you figure out. I hear people all the time say, well, I've got to figure out my who, I've got to figure out my why. And it's not something, especially the who, isn't something, it's not like you're writing an essay or you're trying to come up with the most grandiose, coolest idea that you can come up with. This is something where you go inside, and it's something that you'll sense, you'll know it's true. You don't have to stress about thinking it through too much or trying to figure it out, because you can actually overthink it, and then you start to doubt it, and then you miss the opportunity of really being clear on what it is. And the last thing is that, and this is for people who are kind of friends I have who like to stir the pot and tweak my nose sometimes, but they say, well, my who could be that I want to be a computer hacker and steal everybody in the world's money. And well, that's not that's not a who. I believe that as people, we intrinsically are programmed and wired to do good. And so if someone says that their who is to be hateful, destructive, vengeful, whatever, they are either deceived or they are lying. So that's my thought on it. Let me just quickly go through what I think a who is. So like I said, usually it's one short, simple statement, and it starts with I am. That's often how it goes. Because we're in the subconscious realm, I find that there's often an image or a picture or something that goes along with it. So this can be very vivid, and it can be very very emotional to have that kind of a clear image of this is who I am. It's usually connected with a very strong emotion, and like I said, it's very personal, and it's unique to you in all the universe. And like I said, it's something you sense sense that you don't figure out. And I found that, like I said, you can overthink it. So I found that when working through this, if you get down to that point where you're sensing deeply something that's really meaningful and emotional and personal, go with it. Grab that idea, write it down, go with that first impression, because you've often gotten to it. And if you keep trying to overthink it, then sometimes you'll miss the opportunity. So with that, let's stop there. And Janae, it sounds like you're one step ahead as always. So I would love to hear it if that's something that you'd like to share with us.
Okay, this is what I wrote while I was listening to you.
Okay.
I am a gifted healer inspired by my child wound.
Ooh. Ooh. How does that feel?
It feels really good because I think my child wound gives me spiritual authority. And a lot of times when I really help somebody, it came from that.
Wow. That is powerful. That is really powerful. Do you have an image that goes along with that?
Yes, there's a bad image and a good image. At first, I thought of the bad image, and I've been working to get that out of my head because I know that it creates a broadcast message that I don't want. And so then I thought, okay, I need an image. So the image was Jesus, and he's holding some flowers that he's handing me.
Janine, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. It sounds to me like that's just like a really powerful centering kind of a thing for you.
Thank you. I'm so excited, and it came from you. Woohoo! Woohoo!
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's super powerful, really beautiful.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to share a thought on that now? Or I was going to have us go through a little exercise here to kind of get our minds and hearts headed in that direction. And Janae, you've already gone there, but maybe for the benefit of everyone else on the call, we could walk through this little exercise. Does that sound good? Everybody agree to that? Okay. So it'll be a bit of a meditation type exercise. So get in a comfortable place, get nice and relaxed. If you want to dim the lights, you can do that. And just get yourself in a nice meditative kind of atmosphere. So I'm going to give you 2 wishes. And the first wish is if you could do anything you want to do, like if you could wave a magic wand and do anything you wanted to do, what would you do? This could be a one-shot deal, could be one big thing. It could be something that you continue to do over and over for the rest of your life. It can be anything that you want to do. So take a minute and think about, if you could do anything that you want to do, what would it be? I'll give you just a little bit of time to think about that. And while you're thinking about that, think about it in as rich a terms as you can. So what does it look like? What are the sights and sounds that you're seeing? What does it maybe smell like? What aromas are you sensing? Who are you doing it with? Is there anybody else involved? And what are you doing it for? And then most importantly, how do you feel? Okay, everybody got that? You want to take a second to write it down? If anybody wants to write it down, you can just jot down a few notes, because these things tend to leave our consciousness if we don't get them down. Okay, got it? All right, here's the second piece of this. Go back to your meditative stance. Here's the second question. Is if you could, again, you can wave the wand and you can be anything you want to be. Anything you want to be, you wave the wand and you can be it. So think about what that is. Think about I am. Here's what I am. And again, make it as rich as possible to what it looks like, the emotions you're feeling, and what difference are you making in the world or the universe. Okay, you got that? Anybody? I'll give you a few seconds here to write a few notes down if you want to jot a couple of notes. Okay. I mentioned earlier that your who is one of the most deeply personal things that any of us have. And so I hope that in this experience tonight, you've had an opportunity to sense something that you maybe didn't sense or understand about yourself previously, that maybe you've gone a little deeper with a little deeper understanding and had a little more clarity on your who. Janae has shared with us her insight, which again, thank you, Janae. That was just beautiful. If anybody else would like to share, I'll open that up, but don't feel any pressure to share it if you don't choose to.
Well, what I got was a confirmation. I've been affirming a goal for a while now that I call 30 golden clients. And as I went through those meditations, I imagined serving 30 golden clients at a time, which means constant breakthroughs. And during the second meditation, I was thinking about the ripple effect that Andrew has been talking about a lot lately. And with 30 golden clients having constant breakthroughs, how that ripple effect would affect their families and their coworkers and potentially hundreds or even thousands of people.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is really powerful. Thank you, Curtis. That's really, really powerful.
And I've, of course, done a lot of personal work on the why and the how and the what. And when I went to the who, I was kind of surprised with what I came up with. I'm a people lover. That being a people lover is behind my why, which is behind my how, which is behind my what. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm
Wow.
if I could go deeper than that, or I mean, it is very simple and it's a few words and it's funny. Right before this call, I did the Strength Finders test,
Yes.
And I started reading through the 26 pages. I'm nowhere near finished with the 26 pages, but a lot of those questions, I think there was 177 questions. A lot of those questions helped me see that, yeah, I'm a people lover.
You know, the simplicity and the shortness and the power of those words. I love it. That really sounds like you've gotten to another level. That is beautiful. That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, it when I think let me just kind of wrap up with this. The experience that I've had and that I've seen other people have is when you get to that who, it's you can say, yeah, this is what I was born to do. This is why I'm on the planet. This is who I was born to be. And this is what makes me me. And when you get to it, it is like coming home. You just go, yeah, this is right. This just feels so right. And you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to be embarrassed about it. It just is. It's who we are. And it's the most beautiful, powerful feeling in the world. To So let me just wrap up with two other quick things. So while we're on it, I'm going to share a little bit of mine because I've been working on this for a long time. But for me, when I got to my who, this first level of the who, I was really meditating on it and trying to get to that point where I'm sensing it. And this little phrase popped into my head and my heart, and it said, I am a rock in the storm. And I thought, what does that mean? So I wrote it down and I kept meditating and I kept going on that. And I had this image of this big rock out in the breakers, and the waves were crashing around it. But up on top, it was flat and it was dry and it was safe. And I saw this boat coming through the storm, and it was being like tossed all around and almost wrecked. And it came to the rock, and the people got out and they came up on top. And that's where I was. And I was able to help them, to give them hope, to help them find their own wisdom, and then to give them courage to go on. And they got back in their boat and they kept going. And to me, it was a really graphic way of my who coming together. And I've had people tell me for many years, you know, the first time I met you, I just trusted you. I just trust you. And and you've been there when things have been really rocky and really rough, and you've been able to help me find some answers. And I see these people and they come and they're in my life for a little while and then they go. And so that really resonated with me. And it's partly why I'm on this quest and why I wrote the book and why I do coaching and why I do what I do, because I think that's what I was born to do and why I'm on the planet. So just to wrap up, when we get there, and like I said, it can be a refining, iterative process, but don't overthink it. Just, go with it. And a lot of times when we get to our who, then we start to overthink it or we start to doubt it. And it's all that negative talk. Well, is that really true? And will people think I'm weird? Or can I really do this? Or, all of that negative self-talk is going to come in. But the only thing that's stopping us is our own selves. And so I invite you to get really clear on it, to own it, to accept it and love it, and then run with your why and your how and your what, and go out and change the world. And that's my thought for today. Any final thoughts or ideas?
I just want to say I'm going to be different having been on this call.
Oh, well,
I'm
then it's been
I'm really glad I got on this call.
time well spent. Thank you. And I'm better too, because of being with you and sensing your spirits and your insights with this has blessed my life too. So thank you. Thank you.
I especially like the details in the meditation because I came up with an answer to one of those details that is really awesome, and I wouldn't have come up with it had you not pushed us to see the details.
Oh yeah, yeah. That helps a lot. That really helps a lot. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you all. And don't hesitate if you have other questions or you want to explore different ideas, reach out to me. You can get the book on Amazon. If it's something you'd want to dive a little deeper on, you can go into the model a little bit more and some of the exercises that may be helpful. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for being awesome.